Hello, mystery enthusiasts. Welcome to Mysteries Channel 91, your destination to unravel puzzles and have fun at the same time. I'm your guide on this intriguing journey, Mr. Mystery, and today we are about to dive into a world of mysterious knowledge. But before we begin, you know the drill. Hit that like button, comment on what you think of the stories, and subscribe to not miss any revealed secrets. You are part of the team that explores the unknown. Ready to take off?
Have you ever wondered what really sparked the cataclysmic conflict known as the First World War? This question has puzzled historians for over a century now. The First World War, also known as the Great War, was a complex interplay of various factors and events that gradually spiraled out of control. The war's origins are not as simple as a single trigger. They're an intricate tapestry of alliances, militarism, imperialism, and nationalism. Let's start by considering the alliances. In the years leading up to the war, countries across Europe formed a complex network of alliances, agreements, and treaties. These alliances, designed to maintain a balance of power and prevent conflict, ironically, ended up having the opposite effect. A minor conflict between two countries could quickly escalate, drawing in allies on both sides and sparking a major war. Next, we have militarism. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the world saw an unprecedented arms race. Countries built up their military power, amassing vast arsenals of weapons and building colossal armies. This militaristic culture not only heightened tensions but also made war seem inevitable. Then there's imperialism. The scramble for colonies across the globe, particularly in Africa, led to disputes and rivalries among the European powers. The desire for new territories, resources, and markets fed into a competitive mindset that further strained international relations. Lastly, we can't overlook nationalism. This powerful force was both a unifying and divisive factor in early 20th century Europe. On one hand, it led to the unification of countries like Germany and Italy. On the other hand, it also sparked conflicts in regions like the Balkans, where different ethnic groups vied for independence. So as you can see, the causes of the First World War were multifaceted and intertwined. The alliances, militarism, imperialism, and nationalism each played their part, but none of them alone can explain the full complexity of the war's origins. The intricate web of causes leading to the Great War is not as straightforward as one might think. The first piece of this complex puzzle lies in the alliances that divided Europe into two major power blocs. In the years leading up to the First World War, the political landscape of Europe was significantly shaped by two major alliances, the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. These alliances, formed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, served as both a manifestation and a cause of the escalating tensions between the European powers. First, let's look at the Triple Alliance. Formed in 1882, this alliance comprised Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, three of the continent's major powers. Its primary goal was to maintain a balance of power in Europe and to deter any potential aggression from the two other major powers, France and Russia. However, the creation of this alliance prompted fear and suspicion among the other European powers, intensifying the existing tensions. Now, let's turn to the Triple Entente. This alliance was formed in 1907 by France, Russia, and Britain in response to the perceived threat of the Triple Alliance. While it was not as formally binding as the Triple Alliance, the Triple Entente represented a significant shift in the balance of power in Europe. It created a counterweight to the Triple Alliance and heightened the sense of competition and rivalry between the two blocs. These alliances were not just diplomatic agreements, they were commitments to mutual defense. If one member of an alliance was attacked, the other members were obliged to come to their aid. This commitment was intended to deter aggression and maintain peace. However, it also meant that a conflict involving one or two countries could quickly draw in others, transforming a local conflict into a continental or even a global one. And that's exactly what happened in 1914 when the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary set off a chain reaction of war declarations thanks to these alliances. A local conflict in the Balkans escalated into a global war, drawing in all the major European powers and their colonies around the world. These alliances intended for protection ultimately led to a domino effect of war declarations. The second major factor was the arms race, an intense competition for military superiority. In the early 20th century, Europe was a hotbed of military expansion. Countries were amassing arsenals, building battleships, and training troops. The powers of the continent, particularly Germany, France, Britain, and Russia, were in a constant state of readiness for conflict. Germany, under the leadership of Kaiser Wilhelm II, embarked on a massive program of militarization. The Kaiser's ambition was to build a navy that could rival Britain's Royal Navy, the dominant naval force of the time. This led to the naval race, a frantic competition between Britain and Germany to build the largest and most powerful navy. Britain, on the other hand, was determined not to be surpassed. It responded by ramping up its own shipbuilding efforts. The result was a naval arms race characterized by rapidly escalating numbers of dreadnoughts, the most powerful battleships of the time. This wasn't just about the number of ships, though. It was about prestige, power, and the perception of invincibility. Germany's naval expansion was seen as a direct challenge to Britain's dominance at sea, and Britain was not about to back down. This created a climate of mistrust and fear, with each country viewing the other's military expansion as a potential threat. Meanwhile, on land, the European powers were also expanding their armies. Germany and France, in particular, were building up their land forces. The number of soldiers in uniform increased dramatically in the years leading up to the war, as did the sophistication of their weaponry. This intense militarization didn't happen in a vacuum. It was fueled by a complex web of alliances, rivalries, and fears. Every country was watching its neighbors, calculating its own strength in relation to theirs, and adjusting its military strategy accordingly. This buildup of arms wasn't just a symptom of the tensions in Europe, it was also a cause. Each new weapon, each new ship, each new regiment ratcheted up the pressure. The arms race was a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. This uncontrolled militarism resulted in an arms race, which further increased tensions among these nations. Imperialism, the third factor, added fuel to the already smoldering tensions. As the European powers looked beyond their borders, they set their sights on lands far and wide, triggering a scramble for colonies that would intensify rivalries and conflicts. Imperialism was not a new phenomenon. However, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it gained momentum. European powers, driven by the desire for wealth and resources, staked their claims in Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. This territorial expansion was not just about economic gain, it was also a demonstration of national strength and superiority. The Berlin Conference of 1884–85 is a prime example of this scramble for colonies. During this meeting, European powers partitioned Africa, a continent rich in resources and potential markets, without any regard for the indigenous peoples or existing borders. This disregard for the sovereignty of African nations sowed seeds of resentment and conflict that still linger today. But the scramble for colonies didn't stop at Africa. The Pacific and Asian regions also drew the attention of these ambitious European powers. Britain, for instance, extended its reach into the Pacific, laying claim to Australia and New Zealand, while France took control of Indochina. Germany, a relatively late entrant to the imperialistic game, hungered for a slice of the colonial pie. Under Kaiser Wilhelm II, Germany rapidly expanded its overseas empire, triggering alarm and suspicion among the other European powers. Meanwhile, the competition for colonies wasn't just about land, it was also about resources. Coal, oil, diamonds, rubber, these were the prizes that fueled the industrial machines back home and underpinned their economic growth. The more colonies a nation had, the more resources it could exploit and the stronger it could become. The scramble for colonies turned allies into rivals and friends into foes. Each new territorial gain was viewed with suspicion and fear, heightening tensions and paving the way for conflict. As nations flexed their imperial muscles, the world watched with bated breath, unaware of the impending disaster. The lust for colonies and resources turned nations into rivals, setting the stage for a global conflict. Finally, the flame that ignited the powder keg of Europe was nationalism. This passionate loyalty to one's nation or ethnic group was not just a sentiment, It was a powerful wave that swept across Europe, especially in the Balkans. Here, a myriad of ethnic groups, each with their own distinct language, culture, and history, were crammed into a small area, all under the rule of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The tension was palpable. The Slavic people yearned for independence, to be free from the yoke of foreign rule and establish their own nations. This fervor for freedom and self-determination reached a boiling point in June 1914 with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. The perpetrator? A young Bosnian Serb nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. This act of defiance, this brazen challenge to the empire, was not just a single isolated event. It was the spark that set off a chain reaction, a domino effect that would plunge the world into a devastating conflict. The assassination was an affront to Austria-Hungary, a direct challenge to their authority. They saw it as an opportunity to assert their dominance, to quash the rising tide of nationalism. But Serbia, backed by Russia, would not back down. The alliances were triggered, the arms were ready, and the stage was set. The world watched in bated breath as the diplomatic efforts failed and the nations of Europe marched towards war. In the end, it was nationalism, this powerful desire to assert one's identity, to fight for one's people, that lit the fuse of the First World War. It was a symbol of pride and unity, but also a tool of division and conflict. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the match that ignited the flames, but it was the nationalist spirit that provided the fuel. Nationalism, a force meant to unite, paradoxically became a catalyst for a war that divided the world. So, the First World War, a devastating global conflict, was not spurred by a single event, but a combination of alliances, militarism, imperialism, and nationalism. Let's take a moment to reflect. This war was born out of a complex web of unresolved issues and alliances, all competing for power and control. The arms race of the time fueled the fire, igniting tensions and heightening the sense of imminent conflict. The scramble for colonies, a form of imperialistic greed, further divided nations and sowed the seeds of resentment. And then, of course, there was the nationalist spirit, a powerful force that both united and divided, ultimately playing a significant role in the eruption of this war. The First World War was a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of these elements. Understanding these factors helps us realize how intertwined our world truly is, and how crucial it is to learn from our past to shape a peaceful future.
So, mystery enthusiasts, it was amazing to have you here unraveling secrets with us. If you enjoyed today's mystery, hit the like button, share it with other lovers of the unknown, and subscribe to continue exploring the mysteries of the universe with us. The journey is just beginning. Until the next episode, where the truth always lurks.